If you have centralization, you have feedlot yards that have anywhere thousands of cattle out there. That's one of the reasons you have to have vaccines and you have to have all these medications given to cattle, because when you pack them together tightly for a duration of time, that there's problems that come up. The bigger issue than that is actually you don't know where that meat's coming from. It may say product of USA, and that's not necessarily true. It's similar, I think of it as terms of like mining operations. There's some company else that do hosted mining, where you buy the machine and they host it for you somewhere in the world that it has cheap electricity, and they maintain it for you as it needed, and there's a service contract. The greatest thing is we need to save the independent ranchers as best we can. And if we can buy directly from them, that's one of the best things we can do for cutting the friction between rancher to consumer out as much as possible is a big part of it. That's what individual consumers can do is buy locally from your rancher. I think that's a huge message.
This episode is brought to you by Microseed, the smartest way to back up your seed phrase. All right, listen up, Bitcoiners. Your keys, your coins, but is your seed phrase truly safe? Introducing Microseed, the smartest way to store your 12 or 24 word seed phrase. Stamp your entire seed phrase on one tiny, indestructible washer. Titanium or stainless steel. Waterproof, fireproof, crush-proof. Small enough to hide anywhere. No guesswork, precise alignment, built to last forever. If your seed phrase is on a piece of paper, that seed phrase can get destroyed easily. With Microseed, you get an entire kit to stamp your seed phrase onto this washer. It comes with everything you need, from a hammer to the washers to the stamper. It's never been easier before. Take real self-custody and protect what matters. It's time to take control of your own seed phrase with Microseed. Use code TBB, as in the Bitcoin broadcast, TBB, for a discount. Go to microseed.io. For the link, go to the description below. Welcome to the Bitcoin broadcast. I'm your host, Vince. Today we've got on Tom Tabor, the beef man, which I love. Listened to your other episode and I was like, I got to talk to this guy. And like I just told you, I'm not going to really do the introduction. I'm going to let you introduce yourself. So
Absolutely.
Yeah, why don't you give me a little bit of background?
Sure. I've been a Bitcoiner for a little bit, and I've been friends with Texas Slim for a number of years, actually. And now I've joined the Beef Initiative as the Director of Executive Outreach. And Texas Slim just recently acquired beef.com as a domain. So all guns are firing. We're moving ahead very quickly on lots of things we're going to talk about today. But for myself, I've just been passionate about Bitcoin. I've been to lots of conferences around the world. I have lots of friends in Bitcoin, and I haven't been too public. And then just because of being part of this Beef Initiative and beef.com, I've decided to become more public and be on podcasts like yours, Vince. And so thank you so much for the opportunity to be here today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. How did you even get into ranching and beef? What's the story behind that?
It's really interesting. I was raised pretty much a suburban city kid, but my grandfather, he bought a ranch back in the 1950s in South Texas, actually. And that was always where we went for vacation, for Easter, New Year's, Thanksgiving. We spent a lot of time down there, and it was a fairly large ranch. We had about 100 head of cattle on it that we had another man run for us. So kind of was raised, even though I was raised in the city, I also had kind of a rural lifestyle as well, and did a lot of stuff in outdoors with camping and going to camps and stuff. So I haven't been that involved in ranching throughout my life. I've had a big career in tech, actually, and then a whole nother one in retreats and things like that. But what got me back into it was really the carnivore diet was a big part of it. But being part of Bitcoin, you hear about the carnivore diet. And so I've been on and off that, but I'm a big fan of it. I'm not currently strict carnivorous. I know some people are, but I think it's a good way to do it. And as part of that, it led me to Texas Slim years ago. His second event he ever held, I attended that. And it was really interesting. He was bringing together ranchers that really knew the ranching side of stuff and bringing Bitcoiners together to talk together and say, hey, what commonalities do we have and how can we help each other out? And so it was really shake your rancher's hand sort of event. And that was really inspiring to me. I was so inspired. I kept going to other events he had all over the country. I went out to Virginia to Brooke Miller's ranch. And then some of the events that were at conferences like in Vegas and some other places, Nashville, and places like that. So it's been kind of just, and then he actually held an event up here. We had a cattleman's feast up here on the mountain in Colorado, along with some Bitcoiners. So there's been a number of intersections along with Texas Slim. With ranching, just now that I'm back into it heavily, I've been speaking with a lot of ranchers, speaking with a lot of Bitcoiners. I've been really diving in deep on the economics of ranching, which are really, really interesting. It's all about asset allocation and resource management. So it's a fascinating world.
Yeah, no, the carnivore diet, I finally got into it, like, I would say like 6 to 9 months. Like, I started off slow, just eating steak. And then now I'm like, I try to do pretty much full carnivore diet, and I love it.
wow.
I've noticed a big difference in, my own like sleep, gaining weight, like a healthy weight, muscle, instead of eating processed food. It's been great for me. I've loved it so far. And so when I saw you on the Bitcoin podcast, I was like, I've got to talk to this guy, because it's so fascinating to me. But no, so I have a lot of topics I want to talk to you about. And
Good.
I kind of
Let's
want
do
to
it.
start off with, what is the truth behind the ranching industry and it failing right now? Not necessarily failing. There's a lot of successful ranchers, but there's so many things, as in like a land grab or resources grabs. And I think that's really concerning for people that start paying attention to eating steak and eating beef. And you're like,
Right.
where does this come from? And then you hear things like Bill Gates buying up, millions and millions of dollars worth of farmland. And I'm like, well, that's not good. Why do we have people buying up all this farmland? Why do we have China buying up farmland? So I just kind of wanted to start out with that and what is happening to all of this farmland.
Well, it depends on where you're talking about. Also, it's going to be different in different places. I lived in Austin for a while. If you look around the Austin area, it's a city that's expanding rapidly. And it's been going through a few speed bumps as well along the way. But all the open land around Austin, it's very expensive and getting more so. And it's being earmarked for development as suburbs or ranchettes or things like that. And so we just can see this ever expanding city. I grew up in Houston, which there was a little town outside of Houston called Katy that we would drive out for the weekend to Katy to maybe duck hunt or something like that, or just spend the night out in the campground. Now that's a suburb within Houston, and that was an hour drive previously. So it's like this
That's
expansion
funny.
of suburbia is everywhere. Yeah, it's crazy. There's a huge shopping mall there.
I lived in Cyprus next to Katy.
Yeah,
For a little bit.
sure. So
Sorry.
the whole situation. So we've seen this in our lifetime, that we've seen this urban sprawl go out there. That's one thing. Is that everything? No, it's not everything. But we see that ranching, a lot of the kids that grew up on ranches, they left and went to the city to get tech jobs. And they went to go to college, and then a lot of kids didn't come back to work it. So the average age of a rancher now is in their 60s, and there's not the younger generation coming in behind them. So that's an issue as well. There's subsidies that come from the government that have restrictions on them. So you have to farm in a certain way. You have to put certain chemicals and those sort of things on your property. So that's another attack. If you don't follow these rules, then you can't go to market. And then this access to actually processing of beef is another huge issue, that 85% of the beef is processed through 4 major corporations. And those corporations set the price of beef that doesn't have a true market price. It's not supply and demand. It's basically the processing plants set the price, and you get whatever you get at that plant. So having decentralized, smaller meat processing plants is what we used to have in Texas. Every county had their own plant or their own place to take your cows. And so there was a decentralized system. There was if you didn't like the price here, you could go down the road to the other county and you could find the true market price of what your cattle was worth at any given time. And you didn't have centralized authorities that just basically demanded this is the price you're going to get. So that's another huge one. The other side is banking and finance. So we're here talking about Bitcoin. And it's one of the things that we want to bring to ranchers is more understanding and knowledge about Bitcoin and how this form of capital can really help rescue their ranches. So that's something I'm very interested in talking about. And one of the reasons I'm here today. Talking to you.
Yeah, definitely. I want to definitely talk about how Bitcoin intertwines with ranching and how it can, help. because I feel like the little guys, the little ranchers, like you were just saying, they're kind of getting squeezed because you said there's only 4 processing plants for meat. So does the little guy have to
No,
sell their meat?
there's 4 companies that run those. They run mega processing plants. They have more than just one processing plant each, but there's 4 major companies. So when you go to it, you can think of the small towns used to have mom and pop shops everywhere. Now there's one big Walmart in town, and that sets the price of everything. So it's a similar thing. Whenever you have centralization, you have feedlot yards that have anywhere thousands of cattle out there. That's one of the reasons you have to have vaccines and you have to have all these medications given to cattle, because when you pack them together tightly for a duration of time, that there's problems that come up. So the centralization just creates a number of issues for ranchers, and there's a less choice available to them as to what they can do with their cattle.
Is it true that they're putting like mRNA vaccine type things into cattle these days?
There was a big push for that. There's a lot of details and nuance in all of that. They aren't forcing that, but there's been some threats of that through the government. So yeah. What have you heard about that?
Well,
or just
I've heard that they've been pushing it. I've not heard anything that it's like solidified that like, hey, if you buy your meat from say Walmart, it's not, you don't know what's in that meat, like what was given to that cow type of thing. And that's concerning.
The bigger issue than that is actually you don't know where that meat's coming from. It may say product of USA, and that's not necessarily true. Up until January 1st of this year, it says product of USA, and that only meant that it was repackaged in the United States. But the source of that meat can't be tracked. And it may be very well from another country, Central South America, who knows where. And it may be the scraps of other meat that are all blended together into 1 pound of meat too. So it's very hard to track and understand where this meat came from, what was its history, that sort of thing. So this is one of the things that we're working on in the Beef Initiative and with beef.com, is that have better accountability for how cows are treated and raised. What's the finishing process for them? What is their entire life cycle? What source are they coming from? And what's the density of nutrients for that meat as well?
So there's no way to track. Like even if I go to, let's say, like a decent supermarket that says, like this is organic beef and product of the USA, you still have no idea where that meat could be coming from.
There's still a lot of deception within the labeling, and the labeling could say product of USA. Up until January 1st of this year, they passed a new law that says if it says product of USA, it has to be from the USA. But previous to that, it could have been from anywhere and just repackaged from one package to another inside the USA without actually being the source of the meat at all.
That's insane. I mean,
that is insane.
You can't even.
And that's what we're dealing with. Yeah, so you can't trust. The only way that I've found that I can trust is actually knowing your rancher locally and buying directly from him. Then you actually know you're getting it from this rancher. He's treated his cows in this way, and that you're getting a single source of beef because you've actually paid for a quarter, a half, a whole cow, something like that, or even just getting a box from a single cow too. That's the only way that I know of so far. And we're looking at ways of expanding this and creating more consumer access to beef that's absolutely traced, that has the whole heritage of where it came from and how it was treated along the way.
Yeah, I think that's so important. And it's funny because when I was growing up, my dad used to go to a rancher in Evergreen, Colorado, where I was raised, and he would bring home about half a cow, and we would do all the cutting, put meat grinder and everything. And I thought he was insane. I was like, what are you doing? This is wild that we have half a cow sitting in our living room and plastic everywhere, cutting up different kinds of meat. And I was like, this isn't normal. And so I thought he was the weird one, right? Hindsight, right. I'm like, he's the freaking genius who figured this out a while ago to go to your local rancher. And now I'm here in Florida, like, I need to go find my local rancher and become great friends with them and trade Bitcoin for meat.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, that just means your dad's super based now in retrospect that he did that. And that's no easy task. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that if you don't know what you're doing with butchery, that taking care of half a cow is actually a pretty big deal and doing it right. I've had to butcher a hog before and it's not an easy thing. So Yeah, actually, one way that you can find that local rancher, we have something in the Beef Initiative called beefmaps.com that you can actually find ranchers that accept Bitcoin and actually are close to you. So that's one way you can find people.
Nice. Do you know how many ranchers approximately around the United States that accept Bitcoin? Like, is it a large number or is it kind of scarce out there still?
I don't think it's a large number yet. And that's part of what the mission of what we're doing is explaining not just why would a rancher want to accept Bitcoin, because it is volatile. We're just going through a dip right now. And so that would freak some people out. But understanding what it is as a long-term capital asset. And that's where its real value is just like with any Bitcoiner. If you can acquire it and hold it for at least 5 years, then you've done yourself a favor, and the volatility doesn't matter at that point. So
Yeah. Do you guys do a lot of the education with the Beef Initiative educating? Is that what you guys kind of primarily focus on?
we've actually done it through our X account is where we put a lot of our education about what's going on in the beef industry, and also some with Bitcoin as well. I'm for many years, our founder, Texas Slim, he's been the one that's been on over 200 podcasts in the Bitcoin space, actually. And he's said a lot of words, but he's also said, he's actually moving to a place where he's having bigger meetings that are very strategic. And so I've kind of taken over in some ways that message to the Bitcoiners for the Beef Initiative. And I'm a Bitcoiner natively, and I speak Bitcoiner language. I have a lot of friends in it. So sometimes I can say things that are easier for me to say because I can go into the deep history of it as well. So
Yeah.
so that's part of our education. We don't have like a class yet, but we're talking to other organizations about doing that sort of thing, having actually in the field training with Bitcoin and with cattle ranching, both for men and women, something called Cowboy Camp and something called Windy Whispers, actually getting women to work with horses, which is there's a natural fit there of doing equine equine therapy with horses is kind of a cool project that we're just now getting going as an up and running. And then Cowboy Camp is kind of our initiation into working with cattle, working with horses, and doing ranch tasks and actually getting your hands dirty. So
Really?
those are big things we have. Yeah. So those are things that are coming up, but are just in the initial stages right now.
I want to go to Cowboy Camp. That sounds awesome. And my wife is like full on, like, if we could have a house with land, that's our goal. And she wants horses. She loves horses.
She's not the first woman I've heard say that. That is a common thread for a lot of my friends as well. So yeah. And you can do that if you have a piece of land with a house on it, and you're a Bitcoiner. Well, then essentially you've established a Bitcoin citadel. This is your domicile. This is your kingdom, and then within that kingdom, you want to create as much self-sovereignty as possible. So you want to have backup power. So you may be tied to the grid, but you also want solar panels or wind source or water sources that you can actually generate power. You're going to want to have a garden to help feed yourself. You're going to want to have propane or other alternatives. You want wood stoves, things like that, whatever you can do to make yourself self-sufficient as possible. Not that the whole world's going to collapse, but you're not counting on the whole world being there in case things go wrong. And one of the things you can do is put a cow on your property, and then you have raw milk right from the source right on your property. If you can handle a couple, maybe just start with a dairy cow. If you can get a couple, then you have a small herd and have a calf-cow operation where you actually have a new calf every 2 years, and you start growing your herd, and you have beef on cold storage on your own pasture, and you get to decide when you harvest or take your beef out of cold storage into your family's bellies, actually. So that's one way that you can do it. Another way is you can have your local rancher you're friends with. You can even have your rancher host your cows on them, so you can purchase the cattle that he then raises for you and have some sort of arrangement like that. It's called a herd share. It's another way that you can have a ranch without having a ranch.
So you can buy your own cattle and just have a rancher who's got the land if you don't have the land, and they'll raise your cattle for you.
Yeah, that's an option. Totally. And there's a way you're basically bringing liquidity through Bitcoin to their ranching operation, and they're actually taking care of your cattle for you. So it's similar. I think of it as terms of like mining operations. There's some company else that do hosted mining where you buy the machine and they host it for you somewhere in the world that it has cheap electricity, and they maintain it for you as it needed. And there's a service contract. There's some folks that'll do it in a way that you kind of have to pay a fee no matter how well you do. And there's other companies that do it so that they only take a percentage of whatever profits you make. And that's kind of a nice model, because then they're making sure that your machine's running as optimally as possible. And so it's the same in ranching. You can have this a situation where you have a ranch and you're sharing the cost and responsibility. If there's bad weather, whatever happens, that you are actually sharing the responsibility for this cattle, but you're bringing liquidity to his ranching operation to make sure that they stay in existence, that you actually have a local rancher still.
That's awesome. I definitely want to do that. I don't know if you know the answer to this, but do you know how much something like that costs on like just a guess? Like, because if someone who's not very wealthy wants to do this, or someone, let's say just middle class, like, is that feasible?
It is feasible. I mean, if you can purchase cattle at very different stages of their life. So if you purchase a calf, it's much cheaper than a full grown cow. So there's that. So there's a lot of different prices. Somewhere between $1,000 and $3,000 to $5,000, you can have something going like that. So
That's that. I honestly thought it was going to be more. Yeah, yeah. I
Okay,
honestly thought
there
it
you
was going to
go.
be more.
Yeah, yeah.
I wanted to ask you a couple more things though about ranching. So the little guys, the family owned ranches, and the people that are trying to do this ethically, the kind of meat that we would like to eat, that actually raise the cows right, don't inject them with chemicals, and don't smash up the meat with 50 other cows and sell it to Walmart.
hmm
um it What's happening to those ranches? What's crushing them? Is it like regulations? Is it prices? Like, what's hurting them?
It's a lot of things coming from a lot of different aspects. One of them is regulations, that there is a certain way that you have to. A lot of ranches can't get by without federal money. So you basically go to the federal government, go to USDA, and there's programs. So they're signing up for programs annually, and that program has requirements that need to be met and output at the end of it. And if something goes amiss, you may not meet the program requirements, and it can really impact your ranches. The other thing is just how property rights work here in America. And this happened in our family ranch as well, that my grandfather purchased this ranch back in the 50s, and over the decades, all the way up in, well, over 70 years, the value of that ranch kept increasing in value, but the productivity of it kept decreasing in value. So at some point, it became this liability. Just the tax burden of it was more than what the ranch could generate. And we see that in places like around Austin, where like land prices are skyrocketing, and so the tax burden of that ranch becomes so heavy that you can't really hang on to it anymore. So that's one of the things. And then the pressure to sell, as that happens, the pressure is to sell and break up the ranch into subdivisions or into solar farms, or up in the panhandle, there's wind farms that are taking this really great ranch land out of production and put it into other uses. And so we see those pressures. And then just straight economics. As a small rancher, you don't have the economies of scale that the big boys do. And so it's actually hard to compete. And if you come to if you come to the meat processing plant and you only get what you get, and you may be arriving at the exact same time everybody else is arriving, and the price is plummeting as a result. So it can be a challenging thing to balance all those economics.
Okay. And then you touched on this a little bit ago, but what's the average age of the typical rancher these days?
It's in around 60. I know that's the last number I heard, but I have to use a Google to figure it out. But it's older. It's not 24-year-olds. That's for sure. The 24-year-olds have left. They've gone to college. They've gone to the city. They're getting tech jobs. The big problem with that is that the tech jobs are about to get replaced by AI. So suddenly we have all these software development jobs. We have all these jobs that are dealing with technology, web designers that are suddenly getting thrown out because AI does everything that's digital, and it's taking away all those jobs. The one cool job that I see that's not going to be taken out by AI is ranching. Going back to the ranch, actually having a piece of land and actually running cattle. Humans do well running cattle. If you could probably replace them with Elon robots if you wanted to, but they're not going to have the specialized knowledge it takes when it's 3 a.m, it's raining or snowing, a calf is having a trouble being birthed, and you need to be out there and actually helping that calf come out. It's like, that's a very human job. It's a human understanding of this And I think it's something that's as century proof that we actually have the next 100 or 1,000 years that humans, if you say, hey, what's our jobs going to be in the future? Ranching is a good option. We're utilizing cattle as a land tool to help improve the land and actually producing high density, high quality of protein and meat for our families and our communities.
Okay. Man, that's yeah.
And we're looking at Gen Z. Gen Z's looking at a really bleak future of how do I even buy a house? How do I have a job? If AI is going to take my job, a lot of nihilism, and a lot of angst, and a lot of disappointment in older generations, and for good reason. That how are we supposed to make this? What's this world you're handing us that we don't see a future in? And I think in ranching, we do have a future for kids, and we do have a bright, optimistic, alternative future. And there's some things we need to change, but there's a lot of possibilities because of AI, not because AI is taking things away. It's actually opening up new opportunities in ranching.
Yeah, I agree. And I think a lot of people are finally starting to realize that going into trades is actually way better than going into, your software development, because it's like,
Agree.
okay, like someone's going to need a plumber. Like robots can't do plumbing yet.
Right.
Robots aren't going to be able to, I think people honestly do make bonds with the animals, and animals respond to them very well. And if you have one of
Mhm.
Elon's robots out there, it's not going to respond the same. It doesn't have emotions. And so I think
Right.
that's a
I
good
think you're
bet.
right. I think that's a good point too. Thanks
Yeah.
for putting a fine point on that for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel bad because my dad did a hardwood floor business, and I'm like, the younger generation. And I was like, I don't want to do hardwood floors. And now I'm like, maybe I should have taken over his business. I don't know. No, it's
I've
all
done
right.
some hardwood floors. It's not an easy business, but yeah, it is a great trade. That's for sure.
Yeah. Um, so what is the story? I heard a little bit about it, but what's the story behind beef.com and why that was such a massive deal? We've heard, people like Michael Saylor owns all these websites and all these I can't think of the word, but he owns all these
Base layer
domains.
domains.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah, I was
Mhm.
like, why can I not think of domains? And he owns like hope.com and things. Why was
Mhm.
beef.com such a big deal for you guys?
That's a great question. And it's important to understand what domains are. Domains are the web address that we put in there. And the longer domain name is, the more characters it has in it, the less valuable it becomes. If you have something with 3 English words in it, it's less valuable than something with 2 words in it. If it has a single word in it, then it's very valuable. And if it's a single word that has deep meaning and it's short, it's even more valuable. Examples, Vegas.com just sold for $240 million. Boston.com just sold for $400 million. AI.com just sold for $70 million, I think, but then Tether put $110 million investment into it. So, and why are they doing that? What does that matter? Well, the reason is because humans trust. When you go to Vegas.com, it's going to be a truthful thing about what's happening in Vegas. You can go find local information about that. It's a source that's both trusted by humans and by AIs, both. So it's a place that, as long as you remain in integrity, then you know that you actually have not more than just a marketplace, but a place where it's a verifiable place that you can trust what's coming out of there. And there's a lot of opportunity for creating new infrastructure that's digital in nature. So marketplaces, exchanges, news feeds, and whole new supply chains as well. So there's a lot that can happen throughout that, and cultural stuff as well. It's just the cowboy culture could come to this as well.
Was it like incredibly difficult to get beef.com? Because I can only
It
imagine,
was
like, yeah,
Yes,
go ahead.
incredibly different. It was about an 18-month process, and it had been in dispute for some time before that as well. But there was players from all over the world that really, really that were willing to put big money behind it. The owners of it, who I don't know who they are, but I know that they're good people because they wanted to go to somebody that was going to treat it with respect, that was going to help independent ranchers, that was going to do something that was going to be truthful and honest and help just both consumers and producers get their product out there in the best possible way using the best processes. And so they entrusted Texas Slim and sold it directly to Texas Slim himself as the man. So he's the owner of beef.com, and that's why he's very busy right now talking to lots of people about what is that actually going to become, and nurturing and shepherding in the future of what beef.com is.
That's so cool. I love that you guys got it, or Texas Slim got it. Um,
Mhm.
I have to ask this, which is kind of weird, but is it dangerous? owning something like that? Because I can only imagine, because if you're pushing something that, say, the big food, doesn't want, and you're taking profits away from them, we all can go down our own conspiracy theories, but bad things seem to happen to people that go against the grain, go against these big
Yes,
companies.
there is danger in that, but also we are open to working with anybody that wants to play honest and fair. We're not cutting anybody out, and anybody that wants to come and be part of it, we're happy to welcome you to what we're doing. So we're not here to crush anybody, take anybody down. We're the small guys in the block, so really we're not a threat to these big multinational corporations. And we're going to provide a way for ranchers to get a fair shake. So be it. That's the American way. I think truthfulness, honesty, and doing the right thing is always going to be admired, at least. And if it's dangerous, it's only dangerous by those that are bad actors.
Yeah, and I think that's also a really cool aspect of like a Bitcoiner being associated with it, because I think a lot of the same things that what you just said, honest, and you want a trustworthy person, and I think a lot of Bitcoiners share those types of values. And it carries over from, if you're a Bitcoiner, what you're doing in the other aspects of your life. We kind of assume that you carry those values with you. And so I think that's really cool that a Bitcoiner is the owner, and that you guys are incorporating Bitcoin in it, because it makes me trust the value of it even more.
Yeah, it's not just Bitcoin, it's also Nostr as well. We're going to be incorporating parts of the Nostr communication network as well as part of the technology that we're deploying, because we're a big believer in decentralization, in freedom, and freedom from tyranny, and freedom to transact fairly around the world. One of the places we're doing that is in El Salvador. So we've actually have a contract with El Salvador to rebuild their cattle industry there. And so we're currently working on that as well.
Really? Tell me more about that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, at Bitcoin Historica, which was the first Bitcoin conference by a nation state that Stacy Herbert, the Bitcoin office, put on in the Palace in San Salvador, it was a really amazing event. At the very end of it, Texas Slim signed an agreement with Oscar, who's the acting minister of agriculture for El Salvador, that to bring cattle to El Salvador from Texas and actually restart a genetics program and build a heritage breed of cattle for El Salvador specifically. So we're in the process of doing that right now and working closely with them.
That's
and
awesome.
We just released a press release yesterday that President Bukele retweeted this morning on X. That was pretty cool.
Nice. I love what El Salvador is doing. Like I want to go down there so bad and visit, and I haven't had the chance, but everything that they're doing right now, I'm like, why would you not want to go visit? Like, it's so cool.
I recommend it. I have been visiting there quite a bit lately, and it's been a phenomenal experience. Before, when it was really dangerous, I would have probably never gone there. I would have felt safe, but now I think it's the safest place on earth. It's actually coming into the country, you feel so welcomed, just like, oh, please, we're so happy you're here. Coming back in the United States, you don't feel that warm, fuzzy feeling coming back into the United States for some reason. And so, and then just being there, just being downtown in the plaza where the gangs had controlled the whole palace area previously. I've been down there at midnight with little families with little kids playing around, running around, and nobody has any concerns because it's truly, truly a safe place. There's no pickpocketing. I was just recently in Medellin, Colombia, and they said, beware of the pickpockets, they're the best in the world. It's like, that's not a problem in El Salvador. It's so nice that it's just safe and good things are happening there. And the vibe, everybody's very excited about doing positive things, working together, using technology to solve problems and build a really prosperous country.
Who would have known that, putting the criminals away would make the streets safer?
Yeah, it's something I think President Bukele said is like, it's amazing what you can accomplish when you don't steal all the money. They're building all these mega highways and it's happening so fast. And just growing up in Texas, where I-35 has been under construction for 50 years straight and it's never stopped. And so it just keeps going, like between Austin and Dallas, it's just Waco has been a complete construction zone for decades and decades. And now they're getting highways built in 3 years, something like that. Major, huge new arteries throughout their country, and it's impressive to see.
I mean, can you imagine the things that we could build in America if our money wasn't being stolen or given away to other countries?
Yes, I can imagine quite a bit.
I mean, it's
And I'm hoping
frustrating.
for that. I'm hoping that El Salvador serves as an example for all countries in the world. To be honest, I'm not even kidding. I think its form of government will hopefully become the jealousy. Every citizenry will go, we want exactly what El Salvador's doing, and we want to be like that. And what does it take to be that? Basically, let's not have lawmakers. Let's have law get our way, or like get rid of laws. Let's not make more laws. I think we're suffering from too many, and that the only purpose I see for government is actually the protection of property rights. Beyond that, I think we can do everything without government interference, that we can take care of roads, schools, healthcare, all that can happen without the hand of government involved in it.
I agree. I think we could do it, and then we could do it better. I mean,
Yes.
we ask this question all the time as Bitcoiners. We're like, what has the government touched or gotten involved in that's gotten better over time? And it's
The the only service I really like of the government is the U.S. mail service. I think it's a good thing. It's not efficient, but it's been a reliable and positive source of enterprise by the U.S. government for over 100, 150, 200 years, something like that. So,
I guess I could be controversial in saying that I appreciate our military quite a bit. I do like
I
our
do too.
military. I appreciate them, and yes, then the mail service. I'll give you that one too.
And I'm a lot of friends with a lot of veterans, and they have a lot of misgivings about how our government, our government service, our military services run and operate, and for what reasons they operate. There's a lot of misgivings there. I'm not being anti-patriotic. I'm just saying we could expend our resources differently than we do.
Well, I'm sure we could. I mean,
Yeah.
the amount of money, what's our budget for military compared to our debt? And then, I mean, our military is it's extremely high. And I think a lot of that money goes to waste, unfortunately.
There's opportunities for improvement, but that's way far away from beef. Unless we're
Yes.
supplying beef to the military, which is one thing we could do as well.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but it kind of incorporates it because of all the corruption. And then we see people like RFK Jr. come in, right? And he comes in and he's like, hey, maybe we should look at the food supply, guys. Like, maybe we should not poison our population. And so all he does is the South Park meme and flip the pyramid upside down. And he's like, here you go. Like, maybe eat whole food, eat your eggs, eat your steak. And that causes a big problem, apparently.
Well, it was interesting that happened. I think what it showed was that the pyramid wasn't correctly constructed to begin with, and that we were lied to for many, many decades. And the new one may or may not be the best option, but we know that it's better than what it was, and we're moving in the right direction at least. And that a big part of that, at the top of that upside down pyramid, is saturated fats, and the best source of saturated fats is beef, actually. So along with a lot of nutrient dense protein and vitamins in it as well. So
Yeah. I did an episode with Dr. Amoose, and we talked about how good it is to be eating just even ground beef with healthy fats, and how good it is for brain development, and even women with fertility and things like that. And I was like, imagine how much further along, I mean, this goes back to the government thing, but imagine how much further along we would be and how much healthier of a society we would have if the lies and the scams weren't pushed on us from when we were kids, like eating cereal for breakfast, donuts for breakfast. Like, I don't know. It gets kind of frustrating when you go down that rabbit hole.
it can be. And I know that a lot of Europeans look at the American breakfast diet and they shake their head and go, why is this exactly? So yeah, there's definitely opportunities for improvement throughout our whole diets and our modern society, for sure. And I'm a big fan of Saifedean as well. Like, thank goodness for that man and everything he's done for Bitcoin and as a carnivore as well.
Yes. Yeah. I agree. He's been phenomenal. And I think his book is orange pilled like probably the most amount of people out there.
It was huge in my education. I was a huge fan of it. It still resonates with me today.
Yeah. I wanted to ask a little bit more about Bitcoin, and how does Bitcoin intertwine with ranching, and how can that benefit ranching, even more? Because we touched on it there for a little bit, but I kind of want to go deeper on it, on how,
Sure.
people like me or other guys can can help with Bitcoin.
Okay. Well, I'll do it two different ways. First, I'll from the rancher's perspective, because when I do these, I'm always talking to the Bitcoiners and also to the ranchers that may be watching this as well. For the ranchers, ranching it's a very protocol based operation. That there's not haphazardness. Like it may be that you wake up in the morning, you don't know what you're doing because of a water line broke, and suddenly your day just changed because you got to fix that water line immediately. Or there's some other natural thing came up that changes the schedule of your day. But no matter what happens, there's always a protocol, and the whole ranching operation has to be systematized as much as possible. And asset allocation is the heart and soul of ranching for hundreds of years now. Those that can asset allocation, asset resources appropriately, and these are the inputs that you have into your ranch and the outputs you get from your ranch. If you can have all those line up just correctly, that's the difference between a well-running ranch and one that goes under. And it may just be small tweaks in capital allocation that change it. Do you repair the fence? Do you replace it? Do you have your windmill, your water systems, or what are you doing there? Are you just barely maintaining them, or are you actually building redundancy into it so that if you have problems, you have other ways to do it? So that's huge. One of the things ranchers typically haven't used, but there's some, like my friend Jason Rick's a big Bitcoiner and a rancher. He understands that, and it's actually helped elevate his ranch immensely because as he's seen the price of Bitcoin go up, he has the profits from his ranching operation being held in Bitcoin so that it grows for him over time without him having to do any physical labor to make it grow. He doesn't have to be trading it. He can just have it in cold storage, and it makes a huge difference. So understanding what Bitcoin is, it's not just magic internet money, that it actually is a highly valuable, the scarcest resource we have in human history. Understanding that, understanding it's a good place and a safe place to store your capital for long-term growth is a thing that we still need to introduce to ranchers and have them understand that better. From the Bitcoiner side, it comes down to sovereignty and make sure that you are laying out your world in a way that you have the greatest safety for you and your family and your community. So ways that you can build that food infrastructure so that you have beef in your freezer personally for you and your family, but you also have your neighbors doing that as well. You are just trying to do all these things. You can utilize your Bitcoin capital to help your rancher locally survive. Like we were just saying, doing a herd share is one option. Or just buying regularly from him on a regular schedule could be another one, or becoming a rancher yourself. And that's something we've been talking to folks in El Salvador quite a bit about, is buying a piece of land and building your own ranch in El Salvador, where it's prime country for it. The most beautiful soil, wonderful rainfall, 3 to 4 times what you get in Texas, and a government that's very proactive for it, and no property taxes, which is a huge benefit to owning a ranch or any property.
Yeah, I've noticed that. Like, I wanted to own a ranch in Texas when I lived there for a year. We were like, if you just own land here and put animals on it, no property taxes. That's great. Now, how has the education about Bitcoin, because what is like the what am I trying to say here? Like the profit margin. Like, do ranchers, are they able to keep a decent amount in, what they're profiting, or are they like spending most of that? Because that might be difficult for a ranch to be like, hey, I'm going to put, X amount of dollars into Bitcoin. And if you put it into Bitcoin at the wrong time and then it drops 50%, like we just had happen, like I don't want that to be like devastating to a rancher who's like, I just put my life savings into Bitcoin and now it just dropped 50% and now I'm screwed.
I don't think it matters kind of where you come from, that you can't put everything into Bitcoin until you truly understand what it is. That it requires you to first buy just a little bit, $10, maybe $100, and see what it does over some time. So you can start understanding, okay, what is this? What does the volatility really mean? What does volatility over time look like? And for myself, it wasn't until I dove into thousands of hours of really listening to podcasts, reading books, talking to people that I knew, that I really felt like I started to understand it enough to allocate more to it, and that you can survive the down times. You can you can withstand all the FUD about quantum computers and everything else, or what are the latest thing that is scaring you out there in the news, or different people invested in it early. So there's lots of things that can scare you out of it. The more you actually know about it, the less scared you get, and then you can feel more safe investing more of your life savings into that. But I think that takes time and education, and asking somebody to do that right off the bat is foolish, and they won't be able to hold on to it anyway. So I think education's always going to be key. Don't trust anybody else. You have to do your own research and really understand what it is. But having helpful people along that way is really important. So that's why we're out here talking on podcast and meeting and greeting people, shaking people's hands in the real time out there in the real world.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's the same thing. It's, I've never met a Bitcoiner who actually knows about Bitcoin who wants less Bitcoin. Like once you've learned about it, you're like,
Right. You don't want to store your money in US dollars, for instance. And that's what a lot of renters have to do, that they have the excess in their bank account, and then that's slowly being eroded by inflation. And so that can be part of it. They also use a lot of swapping. So they're swapping assets all the time, and those assets may be cattle. It could be ranch equipment. It could be buying new property. It could be buying new leases. So not owning the property, but leasing the property. And you can really grow a ranching operation faster through leasing than purchasing property, actually. So there's a lot of different ways that you can allocate capital, and knowing what you're putting where and for what reasons and for what duration is really the name of the game between being successful and not.
That's interesting. I guess, yeah, ranchers would have their own like economy of, normal trade.
Mm-hmm.
Selling, I'll sell you this, you give me that. And then it's not in dollars, but it's in other assets.
I think it's often done in top dollars, but you're moving assets no matter what, because when you have a herd, it's not just a certain size and it stays that size. There's different types of cattle you'll want in your herd, and others that you're going to want to move in and out of it. So a calf cow operation is like a breeding herd, one that you're actually trying to increase your herd through. And then you could have a commodity herd that you're just buying cattle from the marketplace, finish them on your land, and then resell them as a commodity product. So there's a lot of ways that you can build and structure a herd that makes sense for the current economic and actually weather conditions too, or financial conditions. So there's a lot of smart economics that go into successful ranching, and it requires that.
Yeah, I'm sure. If there was like one thing that you could kind of, what kind of message you could get out there to either ranchers or Bitcoiners that are listening to this, is like, what's like one message that you guys are really trying to get out there that you just hope more and more people hear?
I think it's actually the greatest thing is we need to save the independent ranchers as best we can. And if we can buy directly from them, that's one of the best things we can do for cutting the friction between rancher to consumer out as much as possible is a big part of it. That's what individual consumers can do is buy locally from your rancher. I think that's a huge message. For the ranchers, it's we're here to kind of teach you a bit Bitcoin, but also some other ways that you can vertically integrate your operation into a way that you can play at the same level as the big boys while remaining a small independent rancher. And I think part of that just is coming together and having more ability to do bigger things. For instance, one of the things is purchasing or building meat processing plants that are smaller than scale. There's more of them around, so it's a more decentralized approach to processing of beef, and has a lot more resiliency than a huge big operation does.
Yeah, I think if honestly, we've seen it with small businesses, we've seen it in even big businesses like Strategy.
Mm-hmm.
The earlier you adopt Bitcoin as your unit of account, the more prosperous you become over time. And I think if ranchers started to allocate their resources and put it into Bitcoin if they can, whether it's a small amount or a large amount, imagine the success that some of these people could have, and they wouldn't have to worry about, where the next paycheck is coming from, or, selling, a piece of their land just to keep the farm running type of thing, like you were talking about earlier.
Yeah, I think it's similar to like orange pilling just your friends, family, or anybody you meet randomly on the street. Whenever you are talking about Bitcoin, you have to kind of get into their personal things of what matters to you, what's important to you, what are the struggles you're facing, and how can Bitcoin address those. And it's just like with normal people, just with like anybody in walk of life, every circumstance is going to be different. Some people say, hey, I don't have anything. Maybe I can just put $1 a week or $1 a month towards it. Other people have larger allocations and larger goals that they want to do with it. So I think it's really individualizing and understanding the world of the rancher as deeply as you can before saying you need Bitcoin is going to be an important thing. It's a respectful thing. It's like, you don't know what I do. You don't know what I'm facing. So don't tell me what I need unless you understand what I'm actually do need first. So there's some respect that needs to be established. There's some rapport that needs to be established before we tell anybody what to do, actually, or why it might be important for them.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. What are you looking forward to? What are you guys trying to work on right now, and what could be kind of coming down the pipeline in 2026 or even 2027 type thing?
We have a number of fronts that we have big projects. The project in El Salvador has just some huge announcements coming up. So we're excited as we have more things developing there that we can actually not just have press releases, but showing the results, having cattle on the grass. That's our big push that's happening right now. On beef.com, we have a large global network of people that we're working with that are very interested in being part of it and seeing how they want to do that. We can't reveal all the details of what that's going to look like, but it is going to be something that's beneficial for ranchers and for consumers. And so that's the direction we're always going, and hopefully creating something that the big boys haven't really created yet. So it's something that's exciting there. And then in Texas, there's a lot that the Amarillo is really the heart of Texas cattle country. And a lot of the meat of the world just comes to the panhandle there already, and just getting more deeply involved with how we can help out with the whole situation there in that area. So those are the big 3 places that I think we'll have big announcements throughout this year from.
Awesome. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
And then what are the best resources to reach out to you guys? I mean, obviously beef.com, but what are some other ways people can get in contact with you guys if they want to know more?
Sure. Beef.com right now, we just have kind of a placeholder website there with, you can enter your email address to be put on our list to keep in touch as things develop. Our Twitter account is our most active social media place. So we are constantly putting things up on the Beef Initiative there, and also Modern T-Man, which is Texas Slim's handle on X. So definitely keep track of those. Beefmaps.com is a great place to find beef, and also Texas Slim Cuts. He sells beef directly through that site as well. For me, I'm Tom Tabor Hodl on Twitter, so TomTaberHodl, and I'm the Director of Executive Outreach. So if you want to reach out to me about any big ideas or plans you have, we can do that. And then we have kind of team members throughout the world that are working as part of the Beef Initiative that have different facets of everything that we do. So there's usually, if you have a question, there's usually somebody that can answer it in that realm.
Awesome. No, I love that. I'm definitely going to be checking out. Hopefully there's a rancher around here, where I'm at in Florida.
I'm sure there is.
Yeah. No, there's plenty of land around here. Just more inland, not near the ocean, but no, Tom, I really do appreciate it. Is there anything else you wanted to kind of talk about or bring up?
I think we covered a lot today. I really enjoyed our conversation. So, no, I think that's great, Vince. Thanks so much for taking the time.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you guys for listening. Please like this video. Please share this video with your friends. Anyone that's interested in raising cattle or the Beef Initiative, go check them out. All the links will be in the description below. But thank you guys for listening. Please subscribe, and we will catch you guys next time. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Vince. Appreciate it.